All right, come on in. Let's talk about Twilight.
You're not wrong about it.
I'm not. Oh my God.
It's a valuable dongle.
Sorry. You could be right, but it's
Any vamp?
Hey, any Vampire Night fans in the room? Make some noise! Who lives in Bakersfield? Make some noise! Who wishes this hall had air conditioning? Make some noise! I'm so sorry, cosplayers.
Oh my God.
And for those that don't have a good internal air conditioning system for yourself, it's hot!
I immediately regret this furry cosplay. Right?
Why am I wearing so much armor?
I know, every time I see somebody walking around, I'm like, oh, you poor guy.
I know, right?
There's a funny thing about cosplay. I've seen this, I'm sure you have too.
We've changed it to a cosplay panel. Go ahead, Vic.
It's cosplay night.
It's cosplay night.
It's every time, you know, when I was a kid,
This on?
yeah.
Well, it's on,
You
but
just
it's
need to
like
talk
on
louder.
like a memory
Get
of someone
closer
who
to
used to
it.
be in the show. I'm on it.
You
I'm
are on.
so on this mic right now.
You are all over that
I'm
mic.
so close to this mic right now.
Get on that
I'm
mic.
so close to this mic right now.
We can't top that. We're leaving now. That's the panel's over. It just
This
topped
mic
out.
actually makes me feel short.
You know,
Like,
I
it's
always
like
have been
so
talking
tall.
about I just want to say something about cosplay too. It's really funny because when I was a little kid, I went to Star Trek conventions and sci-fi conventions, and people spend months, and some of you are in the room right now, months and months and months building what you're thinking is going to be the most amazing cosplay, and you pour your heart and soul into it, and it's amazing. It looks great, and it's done, ready for the convention. And then you put it on.
Uh-oh.
And you go to the convention. And in about 10 minutes, you're like, I'm gonna die. And they would spend the rest of the day carrying their cosplay around because you make these amazing costumes, but sometimes you don't think about how incredibly uncomfortable or hot or cumbersome it's gonna be after an hour or so. And I always feel bad because you can see how much work goes into them, you know? But you guys are troopers, you cosplayers, especially in this building. I want to give it up for you.
I believe with all of my heart they should only make characters from now on that don't wear heels. Because if you've ever been to Anime Expo or any other, that's the thing. At the end, there's like this, it's like graveyard of high heels on the side of the hall, and women crying, and men crying, and non-binary people being like, "Why?" Yeah.
It's like going to a wedding, and then at the end of the wedding, everyone has their shoes off and they're just dancing
Obviously.
in their socks and stuff. Yes.
Obviously.
Welcome to the Vampire Night panel. It's not going to exclusively be Vampire Night, but we will certainly be happy to touch on some of that stuff. Mela Lee, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in the room, voice of Youth Control. Vic Manana, everyone, the voice of Zero. And my name is Ezra Weiss. I voice
Ezra Weiss!
Great, that is great.
I gave you jazz hands.
Oh, thank you. So, let's go back, shall we? We'll go back about, what is it, maybe 12 years, 13 years or so?
12 years.
Really?
It was something like that. Now, first of all, Vic, I know, first of all, he's a globe-trotting, convention-going, entrepreneur, voiceover artist extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I'm curious, since Mela and I recorded our roles for Vampire Night in Burbank, California, which is just south of here, about an hour and a half or 2 hours. Vic, you were living in Texas. Were you flying out to
I was.
Burbank?
Oh, wow.
You know, you guys, my Vampire Night story is really short because I want us all to get as much time with you as possible. But I came to fall in love with Vampire Night because for years I was doing convention appearances and I was always seeing the cosplayers and I would see people in these cool black uniforms. And I was like, hey, what's that? And they're like, oh, Vampire Night. And I was like, what is that? And so they would tell me about it. And so before the show was ever even licensed, I was like, note to self, Vampire Night, cool uniforms, good show. I heard a lot of good things about it. And then somebody from Bang Zoom called me and said, oh, we want you to audition for this show called Vampire Night. I went,
Manifested.
so I want to audition, right? And I'll never forget it. I was in Hawaii at HawaiiCon, an anime convention, and I was dying to hear whether or not I was going to get to play anybody in Vampire Night. And I got a voice, and I mean, I was holding my phone in my hand all day, that kind of thing, right? Just waiting for a call. Suddenly, there it is, 818.
That's Burbank.
Like, oh my gosh. And I tried to click on it, and it was gone.
You hung up?
No, it just like it rang once and then the call was gone, right? And I was like, what the heck? And then there was a voicemail.
Opportunity not
And I was like, oh no, here it is, here it comes.
Uh-oh.
And I put it up, I'm not kidding you. Have you ever heard this story?
No.
No.
Hello, Vic.
Eric-
This is Mummy Okada.
No,
from
Eric.
Venezuela.
Eric Sherman, who owns Bang Zoom
Yes.
at the time, anyway,
Yeah, yes, yeah.
left me a voicemail. And I'll never forget it. I was with somebody and I started to play the message and I looked at my friend, I'm like, okay, here it comes. Here it comes. What are they gonna say? And Eric Sherman said, I'll never forget it, he goes, Vic, I know you were really looking forward to being a part of Vampire Night. And I was like,
Oh, shoot.
I started tearing up. I'm not kidding you. And he said, I promise you, we will work together at some point in the future.
Oh.
And I was like, and I looked at my friend, I was like, I didn't get anything. Nothing. And there was a pause in the voicemail, and then Eric said, in fact, we're going to be working together pretty soon because you'll be playing Zero and Ichiru in Vampire Night. And I was like, yay, Zero! Who's Ichiru?
Who's Ichiru?
I didn't even know he had a twin brother.
Oh, you're right.
They're like, this is awesome. So,
I didn't even know he had a twin brother.
yeah, so,
Shut up.
Kaname doesn't care. He doesn't
laugh
care.
at me. Don't laugh at my ignorance.
He doesn't even love me.
I'm Kaname. I don't need to know everyone.
Who's who?
Night
The
class.
Vampire Night Academy. So that was that, and I flew out. I was living in Texas, but hey, distance means nothing if you have a passion for something.
Yeah.
If you want something bad enough, you get on an airplane.
Yeah.
You drive somewhere. You do what you need to do to make the most of the opportunity. So I flew out, and by the way, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I don't really care anymore. Nobody paid for me to fly out.
Nope.
They didn't pay my plane tickets or hotel rooms. I came out there on my own dime because I wanted to be a part of this. So I'm very honored to be, and I want you to know something. I haven't seen these two in years, and I love them so dearly. Mela is one of my sweetest. I love her to death. We've done music together and several projects. Skippy, some great shows. Yeah. And this guy, man, what an honor. This guy's one of the greatest directors. You guys know him from Ladybug, Miraculous. And when I found out that we were going to be here together, this weekend could not get here soon enough for me. I was like, everything in my life was gauged on how many days till back anime. Like if I was doing something like, okay, 4 days. 3.2 days. I could not wait, and so I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Well,
happy to be here.
I heard that SAC Anime was they're the same people that made Back Anime, and then someone's like, "Well, it's Bake Anime for Bakersfield," and I was like, "But Bake Anime sounds a little sus."
And then of course there's
What is it?
there's the drug dealer anime, crack anime.
Crack-
No, they don't have that. That's in Merced.
That was just a joke.
Sorry, my
because-
bad. I don't know.
And then there's a convention for those of us that spent all of our money on autographs and cosplay. We call that lack anime. That's where we all just go, yeah, I don't have enough money for that.
Is there anyone in here named Zach? You could have an anime.
Yeah, Zach
Oh my
Anime.
gosh, I would be at
Start a
Zach
convention.
Anime so...
Zach Anime.
It's all people named Zach, and we just have to be like, hey, Zach.
And if you're really lazy, we'll have Slack anime.
Yeah.
He's starting Slack anime right there. He's like, I'm starting. I don't even want to hold my hand up anymore.
Yeah, I'm already falling asleep in the middle of this panel. Yeah.
Peeps, 2010, setting the stage, July of 2010, Mami Okada, who thought was going to call him for this, she says,
Hello, Bella. This is the Mami Okada.
There's an appearance in San Diego. It's called Comic Con in San Diego, and if you might want to go, we'll pay for your hotel, and Vic and Israel are going to be there.
and I was like, okay, and I'm like, maybe it's a Denny's or something, and we're just gonna say hello. I don't know what Comic-Con is, San Diego Comic-Con. I was gonna go to law school, right? And so I was like, you know, because clearly who makes a living as a voice actress? That was like the most impossible thing I could think of. But I thought, free trip to San Diego and a hotel, and in my brain, I'm thinking, as I see these two guys, they just need a girl to balance off. You know, there's too many guys. So I'm probably just here to balance off the, you know, testosterone. And I'm thinking, why am I here? Because I also didn't know a lot about anime. So what I knew about Yuki Cross is that she seemed sort of important to the story, and they fed me for free every time I went. And I was broke. I don't know if you guys can raise your hand. Has anyone ever been broke? Where you're like 3 burritos for $1? Okay, that's $1 for the day, right? That's a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you're not super popular with your friends. We won't talk about that.
No one wants you on a road trip.
No. So I get there, and everything is in the back of the convention center. It's all of these back rooms. So you don't see anybody. You're like in a big hotel, like, you know, so I'm thinking we're gonna go to a ballroom maybe. And so I'm shaking, my lips are shaking. I don't know if anyone's ever been so nervous your lips are shaking when you try to talk. And Ezra's on one side, Vic's on the other side, they're like, it's okay, and I'm like, trying to, you know, and so to try to take pictures, they're like, just have fun. I'm like, ah. I'm so petrified. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And we're just in the back rooms, right? And they're like, we just want to go. We're going to sign for like an hour or two. And Mommy, I think she was there. She's like, it's okay. We're just going to sign for a little bit. I was like, great. So we go through some door, and then it was like, San Diego Comic-Con, ding, 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 all these noises. I'm so overwhelmed. I think I'm gonna just crawl into a hole, but I'm like, breathe, it's okay, it's an hour. There's gonna be like 4 people there, it's okay. And I figure, so I sit down and I'm signing, and my friend Walter, who was the Black Power Ranger, was like, Mella, dude, why didn't you tell me you're on the show? Vampire Night! And I was like, because you're not a 14-year-old girl? Like in my brain, there's like 4 people, they're all gonna be between the ages of 14 and 14 and a half. And like, I have no concept. And he turns around and he has this bag that has Yuki Cross on it. Because when you go to San Diego Comic-Con, they give you bags. And I was like, where'd you get that? He goes, everybody has one. And I was like, is this a popular show? Because I thought it was popular because Vic was in it.
Yeah.
Wrong.
And he says, turn around. And there had been this little tiny camera in the front. And I thought they were gonna film it for, I don't know why, like somebody's grandmother? And I turned around and there was this big Jumbotron with the 3 of us signing, and then a line out the building. And I was like, so this voiceover thing, it might stick, right?
I need to read up on this a little more.
Yes, and I mean, that year I went to a couple of conventions with Vic, and people ask questions, you're about to ask questions, I'm sure, and I didn't know all the answers, because I'd only seen my episodes, and we don't record at the same time. And I was in New Zealand with Vic, and somebody's like, so in episode blank, you changed your outfit? And I was like, you know, so what happened in between scene whatever? And then it's like a question like, what happened between these 2 scenes that wasn't even in your script? And I mean, there's 3,000 people, we're in this like huge thing, and Vic's like, I got this. And he like makes up a scene on the spot. He just does that Vic voice, Yuki, yeah. And he, like,
I've learned my
makes
lesson
up a
since
scene.
then. I've learned my lesson.
She's like, Yuki, and he's like, thank you so much for like, it was something like, I just really needed that blood, and cool, dude. Like, it was just whatever. And all these girls like, ah! It's like the power of this person. And I was like, all right, I think these are my people. Like, you can't go wrong. But it turned out okay. I turned out okay.
Yeah.
The end of that story is I
You
decided to
did.
stick around.
You did.
You know?
And that was kind of your first venture into anime, wasn't it?
It was.
And since then, you've become like a superstar and all these things you've done. And
Everybody knows me at the gas station on Coldwater and Moorpark. Yeah. I'm super famous.
how about you? Now, where were you in your voice acting and directing
Yeah.
career when Vampire Night happened?
I was exactly where I am right now. Like nothing has changed. All of it is the same. It was to be a voiceover actor or a director, to be involved in any kind of industry like a creative performing arts industry, it's always a hustle because these projects, no matter how big or how popular they're only for a short amount of time. And then the project is over, and then you got to move on to another project. So we're always we're always working on shows. Some of them you may never ever see or hear about because, you know, they called us or we auditioned and we got the part. We come in, we work on the show, and then that's it. Maybe it's a little bit of a hit. Maybe a couple people are like, oh, that's my favorite video game, or I love watching that dub of that series, you were really great in it. But then there are other shows, like, I don't know, Full Metal Alchemist, for example, where you get a role and it's such a big success and it becomes so very popular and it becomes a very special title and a storyline and endeared characters that amazing voice actors embody and bring life to. And then, you know, you have moments like that. Or a show like Miraculous Ladybug, like Steve, right? Where you get to play the greatest Kwame of them all.
Actually, that's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. That's right. And it's a show that's not quite the same audience as an anime because it kind of attracts a younger audience, and it also can attract the parents or the grandparents for an older audience. And you know, a lot of the older anime fans grew up watching anime. It's not like all of a sudden, you know, they're watching, well, now it is all of a sudden, but back at a time you had to either buy the DVD or maybe go to Japan and come back with the DVDs or the VHS tapes, right? So I knew that there were these things out there that were popular anime titles, right? I'd heard about them. You know, there's Full Metal Alchemist I already mentioned, and there's Bleach, or there's Death Note, there's Attack on Titan, right? None of them, I mean, you guys are in those shows, I'm in none of those shows. So anyway, I was like, I want to audition, so I'm auditioning for that next job, always auditioning for that next job. And then I got an opportunity to voice or audition for Kaname. And it was just kind of basic, like he's just a subdued kind of evil, controlling character. And they had to, and I'm super duper animated, like my voice goes all over the place, I've got a ton of energy, and they're like, Ezra, bring it down. Ezra, bring it down. Bring it down. Bring it down. I'm like, what do you mean bring it down? What? I can bring it down. They're like, no, really though. What we really mean is please bring it down. So I was like, okay. Well, this one. Like, and then any bit of my lines were always told to be brought down by a really incredible director, Christy Reed, who worked brilliantly with all three of us and everybody in the cast. And when I found out that I got that part, and that it wasn't just I usually get these roles, by the way, everyone. I get the role of anyone who wears a white lab coat. So a scientist, maybe sometimes a chemistry teacher, sometimes I'm a dad who's a scientist or a chemistry teacher. Like I get those kinds of roles. They're smaller parts, they're important, right? But they're a trustworthy guy or, you know, some fatherly figure. And then here, I was very surprised that I got the role of Kaname, and I thought for sure I would lose it. Like I'd start working on it and be like, you're fired. You know what I mean? Just get him out of there. So when I did get the role, and I was always told to like keep my performance low, I was questioning the direction all the time. Not that our director wasn't steering our performance in the right way. I just felt like, is there anything to my performance? because this guy is brilliant all the time. This one was a phenom out of the gate, and I'm like, and I'm doing scenes with them. They're not in the room like Mela said, but I'm like responding to their dialogue, right? And I'm like, wow, they're really good. Okay. So it was a huge surprise when we got the phone call or the emails that they wanted us to come to Comic-Con, because they knew, well, you knew already, but they knew that Vampire Night was going to be a sort of a in-demand big title. And Viz Media arranged for the three of us, right, to have Zero and Kaname and Yuki all make an appearance, because that's what the fans would want to see. We didn't know. And then, like Mela said, at Comic-Con, in the giant like Viz Media Center in the convention hall, they put us out on these podiums, and they had all this merch out. And this was the first time I ever saw merch with my character that I voiced on it. And by the way, I'm gonna share with you that whenever I go into the vendor hall, you know my eyes are like scanning for anything I've done that's like in a figurine form. I'm like, where's my eyes? Is that nothing? Nobody. I'm not here. I should leave. Why am I in this business? Right? All that kind of stuff. Right? But I will go around and I'll see anybody who is in Vampire Night cosplay. I'll walk over to them, the geek that I am, the weirdo jerk that I am. I'll be like, you like Vampire Night? They're like, duh. I've always got it. And they're like, I'm sorry, I only watch the subs. I'm like, oh, I'm such a fool, kill me. And then my kids, when they'll go to like Anime Expo or somewhere, and I'm with my kids, and they're like, Dad, there's a Vampire Night. There's Vampire Night cosplay. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'll be like, hey, cool cosplay.
Yeah, they can't take the pain.
And they're like, what is this old man talking to me? I am clearly 14 years old, get away! You know, it's very embarrassing, and my kids think it's hilarious to watch me crumble and suffer. But it was so much fun to be able to be, look, Vic is really special to be around, especially at an anime convention. To work with him privately in the booth, it's always great. To work with Mela, it's always great. Mela and I both recognized, like, Vic knows just how special you all are.
Yeah.
And he gives such commitment to himself to make your experience so special. And we were like, wait a second, we're in a show with Vic, that means maybe we'll get to do some conventions every now and then with Vic. And even when he's at a convention and I'm there as an attendee, like you all are, I'll be like, hey Vic, hey Vic, he's like, hey, he's like, I got 1,000,000 people around me. And it is just so much fun, and I've learned so much from being at conventions, because Mel and I have grown up in our careers and making appearances at
You
conventions.
practically raised me.
Yeah, you're
From
our
when I was a little boy, and she was Castle Shikigami. What was the one where the first time I ever played a little boy was you were like, you could do a boy.
Yeah, she definitely
You
can.
could voice a boy, and I was
Yeah.
like, I could.
Yeah. Yeah, and one last thing, and then it's all yours, and we are all yours. But Vic mentioned you sometimes, if it's something you're passionate about and you really love, you'll find a way to get there, right?
Yes.
Well, Vic and I were recording on a project, and he needed to fly in for this project, and he is incredibly professional, and he's like, I will be there. I was like, are you sure you're gonna come from Texas? I will be there, I will be there. He got there, he recorded his session, he was on time, he was brilliant, he was finished early, and then afterwards he says, oh, Ezra, well, I'll do my Vic. Oh, Ezra, my flight was, got canceled, and I had to go to San Diego, and then from San Diego I had to rent a car and I had to drive here. It's like, what did you do? You could have called and be like, I can't make it, can we reschedule for another day? He's like, no, we had an appointment, and I keep my appointments, and you know, I wasn't gonna interfere with your schedule, and he did not, and he was brilliant, and that's the kind of sacrifice and commitment he has to being excellent all the time. So give it up for Vic, please. I did not forget that. I did not forget that at all.
You guys, I just want you to know that
We love you.
I love you guys. You know that. I want you to know that I cannot overstate, I'm repeating myself, but I can't overstate how much it means to be here with these guys. and always you. But I so rarely, as we've talked about, we record alone. So we're not in a studio with somebody. I always kind of smile when somebody goes, "So, what's it like to record with Johnny Bosch?" And I'm like, "Well, I love Johnny,
Yeah.
but we don't record together. Anime voice actors don't ever record together. So unless you happen to pass each other in the hallway, you're not going to maybe even meet some of the people you work with." But after having the chance to work with Mela and Ezra over the years, and then to find out that they were going to be here this weekend, I could not be happier. This has been one of the best weekends in a long time for me. And thank you guys for being a part of it. They're very important for me.
Somebody, probably at this convention, tweeted at me that Vic and Mela were here at this convention, and they're like, "What about Lord Kaname? How come?" And I was like, "Yeah, what about Lord Kaname?" And I was like, hold on a minute, because I do not do a lot of conventions. I normally, on the weekends, I like to run. I run marathons and half marathons.
Oh my gosh, guys.
I'm a running coach. I like to be with that community, and I like people to be active and find a level of fitness and just, positivity in their life, and I find that through movement. So my weekends are usually dedicated to being with my running club and that sort of running family. So I don't really pursue a lot of conventions, but when I saw this happening, I sent an email back to Bake Anime, and I was like, "Hey, you have Yuki and you have Zero there. Again, it's me being like, excuse me, but I've always Kaname. Sorry about I didn't know if you, right?" And I was like, "So, you may want to have the three of us, and we can do an unofficial reunion for Vampire Night," which has never happened other than the time we were all together at Comic-Con when the title launched for the DVDs. And then within an hour, I got a response back from the social media team, and they're like, "Hold on a second, let's see what we can do." And then a few minutes later, they're like, "We actually had a cancellation." And then Steve, the incredible director of this convention, he contacted me and he was like, "Yeah, so we can make that happen. Yeah, we can do that. Can you do that?" I was like, "Yes, I can do that." And that is why we are here for you.
And you guys, when you get home, drop a message.
Yeah.
Speak positive words. Drop a note to the people that run Back Anime and thank them for bringing us in so that we could be here with you this weekend, okay?
And do it
People
again next
need to be encouraged to know that they did something nice, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do that, please. And you guys, if you ever need to know what it's like to be super fit, this guy.
Or that guy.
Like I literally plan my weekends on. I wonder what marathon Ezra's winning this weekend.
Wait, I never won one of them.
Like,
Like, super fluffy and squishy.
I
Don't worry
can't
about
even
it.
believe it. Like it's amazing. Every time I see him post, I'm like, dang.
Yeah.
That guy's so awesome.
I
I'm
make
gonna go get a donut.
Yeah, you should be the director of Slack Anime.
Me and him, we're
Yeah,
doing
doing
it.
it.
Because neither one of us has the energy to do it by ourselves.
That's right. It'll take a village.
So let's take questions from you
Yes.
guys. We want to open it up to anything anyone wants to ask, and we'll do our best to answer. Okay?
Brooke Shields are here. Yes.
So, Vic, if you were to ever be asked to go back for season 2 of Morons, it's like been rumors circulating about that a lot for Nick recently, would you do it?
Oh, commoner. Do you not know where my heart is? Oh my gosh, I would give anything in the world. I've said this a million times, and this will be 1,000,001. If I were rich, I would personally pay my money to make another season of Oran. I love that show, and Vampire Night for that matter. I would love, everybody comes up and they're like, the manga kept going and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, don't say that, because it would be so much fun to revisit these characters and to take the story further. So we'll just all keep our fingers and toes crossed that maybe somebody somewhere will decide to make another season, right?
Well, I did Fate Stay Night, like the first Fate Stay Night, and then maybe 10 years later they finally got around to keeping it going. So I mean, we're right on the cusp here. We could make this happen.
Yeah.
We could Vampire Night 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12. We could do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, we're ready.
We could call it Vampire Next Day.
Vampire dog.
Is the sequel.
Vampire dog.
Kaname's Revenge. Question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Did you enjoy voicing Matt, like from Digimon?
Oh man, you know, Digimon's iconic.
Yeah.
You know, like, I would pay you to let me, you know what I mean? When you get the chance to be part of something that's very Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, some of these shows that are just really helped bring anime to the forefront, quite honestly. You know, all of the stuff that's been on broadcast television really helped bring anime into the mainstream. Back when I started, it was just this little fringe, you know, little fringe kind of thing that not many people knew about.
Like a Gundam something.
Yeah, but then shows like Digimon and Pokemon and those kind of things, even Dragon Ball in many cases, went on television, and they were what kind of paved the way for anime being so mainstream. So it was an incredible privilege to be a part of Digimon. Absolutely.
Yes, Marissa.
Hi. Real quick, I just
Stand
want
up,
to say-
please. We can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
Put your glasses on. It's too bright in
Okay,
here.
hold on.
Turn around and show everybody your selection cosplay.
Okay, I real quick want to say I love all three of you. Vampire Night was my everything when I was a kid. I'm like shaking you guys. I'm so scared. And you're all so gorgeous. You're all gorgeous people. Personality, face, everything. I'm scared. Anyways, one of my favorite things from Vampire Night is when you guys say your own character's lines and like your names and each other's names. So I was wondering if you guys could do that right now in character, please. If you want to.
Your favorite, like, so say our favorite line and
No,
then
just
say
your-
the name.
Just say our names.
Yeah, just your character's name. It doesn't even matter. I don't. You can say anything. I'm scared. I'm so scared. I love.
My name is Ezra Weiss, and I voiced Lord Kaname Koran.
But can you also say their name?
No.
Please,
Marissa.
Please, Ezra, please.
This is Vic Magnano, and he voices Zero and that other twin jerk brother of his that I don't remember the name of because I didn't pay attention to any of his other characters or story because Zero is trash to me, and he will always be mine. And this is Melody, my sweet, beautiful rose in the snow you can cross.
Good night, Marissa.
Thank you.
Who else? That's it? And good night. Oh, no. What? Oh, wait, were we all supposed to say our names? Did you want to hear all?
That's what I wanted.
Oh my
but
God,
it's okay,
Marissa.
it's okay. It's
Great.
only if you want to.
Marissa gets what she wants.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure of my name. Blood and snow. That's all I remember. Zero, if you must. Kaname. He just makes me so nervous. And we all know who you really want to hear talk. So, Zero.
I'm Zero. I go to school with Kaname.
Yuki, if ever I turn into a level E, I want you to kill me. Or Kaname. But preferably Kaname.
Not canon. Not canon.
Our canon.
This is the OVA we're working on right
How
now.
was that?
And when we were in New Zealand, by the way, when he made up that scene, all he had to do was say, Yugi. Nothing else mattered. You know, we actually had a sentence or two after that, but there was so much screaming in the stadium. It didn't
I
matter.
will never understand that at all. Don't get us wrong, we love it. It's very humbling and very, very kind. But we're like, really? You know my favorite part? Every time somebody says, what's your favorite part of playing Zero? You know what I say? Playing Ichido.
Aw,
No,
that guy
really.
again?
No, really. Yeah, the jerk.
Aw.
right? No, because you know what? It's as an actor, It's a lot of fun to play two characters, especially against each other. And so, since we record alone, you record all of one character first. Like we would do all of Zero's lines, start to finish of an episode, and then go back to the beginning and get in a different mindset of Ichiru. And then there'd be these scenes where they're actually talking to each other, and I'm listening to my Zero lines and responding. And that was, as an actor, that was the most fun part of Vampire Night, was playing the two brothers. And they did that because, if you don't know, the Japanese did that. The actor who played Zero in Vampire Night also played his brother. And guess who else he played? Tamaki in Oran High School Host Mode.
Wow!
And guess who else he played?
Shut up.
Rin in Free.
No! All you.
So apparently I'm stalking this poor Japanese voice actor. He doesn't even know it. But we played all these several characters, but we did the same thing that the Japanese did. So
I have a question
Yes.
for either Mela or for Vic. Have you ever met any of the Japanese voice actors that you voiced their characters in English?
I was gonna say Kana Ueda, who she plays like Yuki and Rain. Like we play a lot of the same roles as well. I did get to meet her at Heaven's Feel. And again, you know, you were shaking. You think you're like, I've got this. I've been in the business for like 8 years. Things are, oh my God, Konichi, hi. Yeah, it's like we get like fangirl, fanboy. I don't know if you're like that when you see the Japanese original actor, because I mean, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen very often.
I've had the privilege to meet a few, but the most notable, without question, is Romy Park, who played Edward Elric in Full Metal. Now what you need to understand, and I'm speaking for all three of us, but what you guys may not know is, when we first listen to a line from a show before we dub it, we hear the Japanese. So we become very familiar with their voices and their performances. And so we come to develop a respect for what they did and an admiration. So I want to tell a story, but I don't want to take up too much time. I'll do it as fast as I can. I was supposed to be a guest at Anime Expo one year with Romy. They were bringing her from Tokyo, and I was living in Texas at the time, and I bought her this beautiful cowboy hat because I saw a picture of her online wearing a cowboy hat. I'm like, I'm from Texas, and I'm gonna bring her a cowboy hat from Texas. And so I got there carrying this box, Stetson box, and they picked me up at the airport and they said, we have some really bad news. I'm like, what? And they're like, Romy's exit visa expired and she can't come. And I'm so bummed out. Fast forward 2 years, maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, I had the chance to go to Tokyo to work on a project. And they said, Square Enix was behind the project, and they said, is there anything you want to do while you're here? Do you want to see Mount Fuji? Do you want to visit the temples? I'm like, I want to meet Romy! I have a hat for her!
No, did you bring your hat?
Yes!
Oh, God.
I did. This hat has seen the world.
Traveling pants.
I'm not kidding you. So Square Enix set up a dinner with me and Romy and Seiji Mizushima, the director of Full Metal Alchemist. We went to this restaurant in Roppongi, which you may or may not know is like the nightclub district in Tokyo.
If you don't know Roppongi, it's Disney's Tangled. Same thing. It's the same thing.
So I gotta tell you guys, we spent the whole night, like here's me and here's Romy across the table from me, and we each have interpreters, right? Because I don't speak Japanese and she doesn't really speak good English. And so we're looking at each other, just locked eyes, right? And I will say something, and then wait for my interpreter to say it, and then she'll go, oh, and she'll say something to her interpreter, and we're just looking at each other. And I gave her the hat, and they have all these pictures. It was so wonderful.
Awesome.
And let me just tell you, the next day, I came down to my hotel lobby, and the guy at the hotel lobby said, there is a package for you. And I'm like, what? I'm in Tokyo. Like, why would there be a package for me? Romy had brought by a gift because she
Stetson
felt,
hat?
right?
A special hat?
No boots. With spurs on them. No, she.
Like everybody in Japan.
She knows me. No, listen. She brought this traditional Japanese tea set.
Oh.
And it had a message that said, I did not expect you to bring me a gift last night. I felt so bad that I didn't have anything for you. And so she brought this by. Now, last piece, 10 seconds. Several years later, I was getting ready to do an event, and Anime Matsuri, and if you can make it to Anime Matsuri in Houston this year, don't miss it, and I won't tell you why, don't miss it. But they called me and they said, what are you doing the weekend of our show? And I'm like, I'm already booked at this event. And they're like, we're bringing Romy. And I hadn't seen her in probably 6 or 7 years at least. And I was like, dang it. So I called the other convention and I said, can I show up on Saturday and just do one day at Anime Matsuri? So I changed everything around, went to Anime Matsuri and did a joint panel with Romy. And we titled the panel, Two Eds Are Better Than One. So I know that was a very long, cumbersome answer
great
to
story.
the question, have you met any of your
Everyone's
Japanese
interviewing
counterparts?
you.
But it was a wonderful experience.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How about you? Have you met any?
No. The end.
Somebody out there, make some calls. Shoot some emails on.
Yeah.
I have met some of the original producers or directors from Japan that would come to America to watch what was happening on the English version of a show. That show most recently is called Megalobox, and it was a show that I was directing, and those producers and the directors came from Japan. And they were, you know, I am always super worried. You know, I'm cautious, and I just want to be so respectful with everybody's original property when they hand it over to, you know, another country's language to dub something. You want it to be as good as possible. It won't ever be the same, but you want it to be as good as possible. And I'm always surprised. And it was like this when we did the reading of our first episode of Miraculous,
Yeah.
remember? Because
Very
we had like on a Zoom monitor, we had the director, Thomas Strack, on there, and it was nerve-wracking to see how they were gonna watch us read the pilot episode.
To make sure, like we got the job, and then they were like, we just want you to read to make sure you have the job. And we were like, wait,
So
what?
we could all be fired, in other words. Like all of us could have been fired if they were like, that doesn't sound good.
And I had just gotten over laryngitis.
I remember.
Like the day before.
Yes, I remember that. I remember.
No pressure.
She didn't have a lot of tiki to do in that episode, but
It's just the highest voice ever in the whole world.
you just have to have a good voice to do it. And they were really very, very pleased, like overwhelmed, so happy, so pleased with what we were doing. And it was like that for Megalobox as well. But I get so nervous that, you know, it won't be received well, or they just want to change everything. And I'm not a perfectionist because that's just silly, you know, but I am someone who wants to do the best that I possibly can do. And I know that perfection, you know, eludes us. We can't really have that, but we can always work and strive towards that, right? And I'm always like, if I deliver an episode, I hope I don't get any notes back. And if I do get like 2 or 3 notes back, like to fix this line or to fix that line, I take that very personally, like, oh, they hate the whole thing. You know what I mean? But it's normal, it's a creative process, and there's adjustments, and there's notes, and there's input, and we gotta be flexible with all of that and not take it so personally. But I'm an emotional, personal person, and sometimes I respond emotionally like that, but I try and always manage it and keep it professional.
Now I've heard both of you gentlemen, they're like, oh, I thought I got fired, I didn't get anything.
Right.
Or, you know, they're just gonna replace me.
Happened, yes, happened.
Has that ever happened to you,
Yes,
Vic?
never to Vic.
Yes.
What?
Has it really?
You know how they have stars and they'll be like, so which ones were the ones that got away? And they'll go, I was going to be in Titanic, or I was going to be in the Fast and the Furious 57.
Right.
So, what role did you get that maybe you were recast?
Well, you know
You
what?
don't know about.
Okay.
What's the
I
one
feel
that
so
got
bad
away?
because I do not want to talk too long, so I'm going to set a timer.
Okay.
What?
For 30 seconds.
Okay.
I'm going to answer this question in 30 seconds.
It's gonna be like Eminem's Rap God. You're just gonna have to go and give
Ready? Here
everything.
goes.
Lose yourself in the moment.
Many of you remember ADV Films, which was an anime company in Houston. Well, they got really big and they had a lot of shows, and I was voice acting in a lot of shows. and then they went under. They went out of business, and all of the shows they got, they lost
15
the
seconds.
license to.
15 seconds.
And they were all recast. One of them that I was playing the lead in was Sergeant Frog. Kara Road, Sergeant K. I loved that show so much. I bought all these toys, loved it. Gurren Lagann.
There, you'll never
Was
know.
another one.
Wait, did you get recast in Gurren Lagann?
I was in Gurren Lagann. I played, what was that guy's name? Viral. Thank you.
I was cast as Yori.
Really?
I wasn't cast at all.
And it was the first, and it's okay, I'm alright. But yeah, no, it was like, hold on. And then there
Oh,
were
you
these
mean
two-
during your session?
There were these two Japanese people talking, and then they get on, they go click, because there's a talkback mic.
1 more minute.
And then they talk, and she's like,
Mela, we just, can we talk to her?
Oof.
and I was apparently I wasn't enough of a tomboy, and I used to speak quite properly, and so it was kind of hard for me at that time. So I got to play Dari instead of the lead, but it was one of those things like, we've just cast you. And then I thought to myself, who did they uncast? Because somebody else probably got the same call, because they were like, they didn't want to like take me down too many notches, but yeah, you're just not right for it. It's
You know
not
what, you
for
guys,
Yeah.
can you can take something very valuable away from this panel.
Mhm.
You know what it is? We are exactly like you.
Yeah.
We have the same insecurities. We have the same fears. We have the same uncertainties. We have the same hopes. We fail. We don't get opportunities we hoped we would. No different. We're all in it together, you guys. So go home remembering that, okay? And be encouraged that anything is possible for you guys. Anything.
I think all three of us are patron saints of second chances. So it's never too late, you're never too old.
We can pray. We can hope so.
You're drawn perfectly for what God has for you in your life. And I'm very lucky to have had these two gentlemen in my life at a time where I didn't have any direction. And I mean, I thought it was really cool that I'd get to do a few animes. And it turned out okay for me, I'm just putting it out there. But at the time, I didn't know what I was gonna do with my life. You know, so I don't know if anyone out here is feeling a little lost, or that maybe your dreams aren't gonna come true right away. Anybody? Okay, right? I have lost more jobs than I've gotten, but the jobs that I did get were for me. It took me 20 years to be an overnight sensation. So if your heart is aching for that dream, you may not be good enough for it yet. You may not be ready for it yet. People may not believe in you yet. You may not know how it's gonna happen yet. But if it keeps knocking on your heart door, like, there's a reason. Please don't give up. Don't think, oh, I'm 22, it's over now, or I'm 16, I'm a husband. I mean, it's in your heart for a reason. And you will get good enough. The doors will open for you. I don't care if it's that you want to be the greatest accountant in the world, if it's a medical procedure that hasn't worked out. Guys, we just figured out a pandemic in the last 2 years, and all of that stuff is going to help cure cancer. And so anything that you think isn't happening right now, it just may not have happened yet.
Yeah, take things a day at a time, everybody. Don't bite off more than you can chew. You know what I mean? Take it a day at a time. Be the best you can be today. Don't worry about a month from now. Don't worry about, oh, it's going to happen in 5 years. Make the most of today. And you'll be surprised how those days compound and build into something beautiful.
Yeah.
Question?
Yes.
So, in Vampire Night, if Yuki didn't end up becoming a vampire, what do you guys think would be an alternate?
I'm sorry, Kaname. I mean, I'm sorry, wait, were you even talking to me? I'm sorry. Vic, did you want to answer that question?
No, I think she was directing it at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, would you have ended up with Zero, or what do you think?
If she were lucky.
We would have. First of all,
Just happened.
Yuki Kaname would go to a family therapist.
I felt like the dynamic, I'd be like,
Kaname,
We discuss
I feel like
boundaries.
You demean me sometimes and make me feel small. I know you're 7 feet tall and I'm only 4'6", but it makes me feel small.
Yeah. Yeah. We would work things out. We would probably get an RV and go, like, just all of a sudden tour the states.
Another job that he didn't get was
Rescue
to
a
write
dog.
the new manga and season 3 of Vampire Knight. I'm so sorry you didn't get that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a job. That was a job that was pitched to me. They're like, Ezra, would you write season 3 of Vampire Knight? I was like, yes.
And
So
the
Yuki
cover
and
has
Kaname are in an
RV.
RV. Yeah. And then they find a time travel machine, and it's a multiverse storyline. It would be great. It would be great. Nobody liked it. Like, you all don't like it.
But I love you. I could listen to these wrong concepts for
I would like Zero to open a casino.
Okay.
Ooh. Where we
Yeah.
at?
What?
Yeah.
That's all I got so far.
Oh,
Okay.
well, at that casino, I would like to open up a seafood buffet that.
I think I just peed a little.
We are having fun. It's the air conditioning's fault. I tell you,
So hot.
our brains are literally melting.
You guys can do anything. We're just going to entertain each other up here for a while. You're just gonna
Honestly,
sit
I'm going to
down.
answer this for everybody in the
Yeah.
room. I think she would have obviously fallen in love with Zero. They
Yes.
would have had an incredible love affair and broken up. You cannot have a successful relationship with someone who doesn't love themselves. I'm serious, babes, and I mean,
That was-
I'm going to speak
that was
personally.
great. That
If
was
somebody
big.
has self-hatred, you cannot love them enough to fill the void.
Deep.
Dang,
Yeah.
Yuki.
And Kaname would have been in an RV, and I would have been like, still nope.
Oh.
So there's a guy named Jeff, and I don't know.
He works in this casino that Zero opened.
And
Yeah,
Jeff
my
and I were
poker
like-
card dealer.
Yeah, he's a cashier at
He's
the.
Hey,
super
Bucky,
hot.
come over from table 6. I have somebody I want you to meet.
We have a hand up. Yes, sir. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I only have like a question and a request.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
This is not a good one. So,
It's not a good one. Great, perfect. That's just like this panel.
what he
It's not a
said.
good one.
He said, I have a question and a request. It's not a good one.
No, not a good
It's not a
one.
good
question
one.
is for Ezra and Vila.
Yep.
So I'm a fan. Well, I know it's a Vampire Night panel, but I'm like a fan of Miraculous.
Okay.
I think everyone else is.
Oh, wow. Thank you for encouraging everyone to instantly become a fan.
My question is, if there was a crossover with Miraculous Ladybug, if Miraculous had a crossover with any show, which show would it crossover with?
Clearly Bob's Burgers. It makes it perfect. Would there be anything better than that?
No, absolutely not.
That would be so much fun.
Kristen Shaw as Miraculous Ladybug.
Yeah, I mean, what they would do is they would have a
The burger
family
Miraculous.
swap. All of a sudden, the Bob's Burgers will be working in Paris at the bakery, and the Dupanchangs would be, you know,
Tiki eats
running the burger
burgers
shop.
all the time.
Yeah.
She needs a burger, and then she gets like a little. She's already a little round, let's
She is.
admit it. But she'd have like a double round at the bottom.
Cute.
Yeah.
All right, so a little Family Guy crossover.
Yeah. She'd be all about burgers.
I'm curious. That's a great.
Request. That's a great question. What is the crossover show you have in your
Yes.
mind for
Oh God.
You knew it was going to be a bad request.
Yeah, but this was a different.
How bad was it?
Yeah. Miraculous
With.
Oh God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I was gonna say Ruby.
Yes.
You would love that.
Yes, I would.
Great
really
call.
Like see them like interact.
Miraculous will prevail. Sorry, that's my movie fan.
Nice,
Sorry.
nice.
I have to say Ruby. I just have to. It's either that or Full Metal because that's not gonna work.
No, we work with Full Metal. Excellent. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, man.
Oh yes, we have a I see it.
What was your favorite line in Oran?
Boy, those are. You know what? I think.
Those are the hardest questions in
Yeah.
panels.
Every word ever spoken.
Yeah.
I love Tamaki. Everything. You know what? There were so many great lines. I mean, everybody knows. You've seen the videos of "What if I let you drink it from my mouth?"
Right.
And then I would drink it. I mean, the first episode of Oron was so full of so many great lines, like the whole commoner's coffee thing and all that kind of stuff. Long live the poor and all that kind of stuff. Too many to even name. What's your favorite? Yeah, see? It's not easy, is it? What's your favorite? Yes. The commoner's coffee. Question?
Yes. And then, wait.
Which one?
I was gonna say in the very back.
We'll go in the very back. We'll work up to you, Ariel.
Yes.
Yes.
You're Ariel now.
Out of context.
Does the time that I farted in the booth while we were recording count? Or do you need context for that? Do you need
Definitely
context?
not context.
What happened was I had Chipotle for lunch. And about an hour and a half later, I was in the session. We were working. It's hot like this. Got real farty like in here right now.
Like this morning?
Kidding. Like this morning? What do you mean like this morning? Would you quit it? It's true. All right. So for a little context, I'm coming out of the Marriott, which we stayed at this weekend. And I don't know, have you ever gotten into an elevator with just one other person before? I did this morning. And that person decided to pass wind while I was there, silently. So it was trouble.
The old SBD.
Yes, the SBD, that silent but deadly. And, you know, I just sort of stood there, and I'm sure that person knew quite well what had happened. And I was like, I really can't believe that this still happens. Like, you know, you would think it's just 6 floors, but no.
You should have just turned to him and said,
You farted, didn't you?
Chipotle?
Oh!
Is there
Next
Chipotle
question.
nearby?
Yes. And then we have a mermaid to speak to.
Oh, yes.
So, I was wondering, Big, as Tommy, what's your actual opinion on Haru and Hikaru, other than what's directly stated in the anime?
Hey, why would I contradict the actual script from the show, right? I mean, they're the homosexual supporting cast. Right? That's what he says. I didn't write it. I just said it. But I love the twins are just hilarious. And Greg and Todd did such a great job with them. The entire cast. I mean, everybody in that show was just spot on. But I love the twins. I love the dynamic between the twins and Tamaki and how they always gave him a hard time. I love it. Question? Yes.
Little Mermaid?
Oh, wait, that's right. I'm so sorry. You're next. Where's Little Mermaid?
Yeah.
In Vampire Night, Yuki says that Kaname is born her older brother, but then Kaname says that if he was truly born her older brother, he'd be happy. So what are they to each other? Are they twins?
Wow. What are they to each other? So complicated. Is anyone else confused about what are they to each other? And you think we know the answer? You love the show like nobody's business. You devour it, and it's still a confusion.
Raise your hand if you know what we are to each other.
Yeah. Does anyone know what we
Anyone?
are to each other?
Okay.
Oh, okay, what are we?
Yes. Kaname and Yuki are.
Why am I blanking out on names again? There's, what's it called? Wait, like full text in the manga, I don't know how many have like read the manga fully. Yeah.
That's exactly how we were.
That's exactly what we were going to say.
Literally. It's but what they are to each other is but so Kaname and so Yuki and the and
Technically, the term is you know, like. Oh yeah. Okay. So wait. It's like this. You know how like when you have a dog and it has a litter, and then there's all those puppies, and then you decide to keep one of the puppies, but then all the other, and then all of a sudden it's kind
but
of
you're
like,
at this dog park.
It's not like
and they were raised totally separate.
Totally separate. Then all of a sudden they see
get
each other,
along,
and they're like, hey,
I have
why are we
a feeling,
vibing so much?
Right?
That's weird. We got a great
What
vibe
are
going
we
on.
to each other?
Yeah.
But yeah, that
It's a little bit like that.
it is.
So they're basically puppies from the same litter.
Yes.
right?
I don't know if they're from the same family.
Maybe prison cellmates.
From the same genus.
Yes, from the same genus.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, we got a question in the back. Yeah.
I'm sorry? What about him? Oh,
That son of a... Every panel I'm at! Ah!
Chris is one of the most talented voice actors out there. He's kind of legendary, no pun intended. But yeah, he's an amazing voice actor and director, producer. Like, he's been around a long time. Back when I started, I think he and just a couple other people were doing Dragon Ball in Dallas many, many years ago. But he's super, super talented guy. Question? Anybody?
Yes.
We'll get one second.
Okay, so Vic, I know you were taken off as a pro, and I stopped watching it when that happened. Did they bring you back, or are you still? And would you go back?
Oh, well, I would go back to any role I've ever played. I love what I do, and it has nothing to do with money. I've loved what I've done. I told my panel, you guys in my panel yesterday, anybody?
Yeah.
I told them yesterday that I feel so grateful to God to have ever had the chance to do what I do. I didn't plan on it. I didn't knock on a lot of doors and send out resumes and record demo tapes and beat on, all the time and trying to get in and push through. The door opened and I walked through having no idea what was on the other side of it. And I am blessed more than I ever deserved. And I know that even now, if nothing else ever happened for me. I will be honest with you and vulnerable and tell you that it scares me to say that out loud, because I do love what I've had the chance to do, and I love you guys, and I love that people appreciate the work that I've done, and I feel like I'm not over the hill, right? I mean, I still have the same skills that I always had.
You're basically the Tom Cruise of anime.
To be honest.
Except I'm 5'7.5". All right.
You're way taller than Tom Cruise. You're way taller.
Way taller.
Way taller.
But you know what? Let me just bring it back to what you asked. I love what I do, and the most heartbreaking thing would be to have created or originated characters that you don't get to play anymore. I would play all of them all over again. I would take any opportunity that was given to me. Unfortunately, it's not my decision, but I sure love you guys for appreciating what I've done over the years. So
we are now at the end of our panel, and we're going to have to move on. But one thing I would like to request, if you're comfortable in doing so, I'd like to get a photograph on my camera with Mela and with Vic and with y'all behind us.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want to be behind us. Because this, again, remember, is our unofficial Vampire Night reunion.
Yeah, if you could crowd like.
give it up for this awesome human being right here, too.
Get up there. He has a way to do it.
Oh, okay. You want her to take it? Ready, people?
Oh my gosh, even better!
All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Put your hands up in the air. Come on, make no noise. Hey there. I'm coming to you now.
I don't think you blinked.
Be careful.
Yay! I'm the only one. Thank you guys. We love you.
You're about ready to back in tonight.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not upset.
I didn't know you were there.
No,
Put
it's
your hand on
okay.